Hey, I'm Dan Fradenburgh, and this is Yeah, But I'm here with Greg. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Dan. How are you?
I can't really complain. So right now, our topic is about social media presence.
Have you tried though, Dan? Give it a try. Complain.
I,
Not just
yeah, usually I don't have to stretch too far to complain
yeah,
about
okay.
something. Taxes or traffic, that makes it pretty easy,
There you
right?
go. When's the last time you left the house? I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
That's funny. Yeah, you're so right too. Because yeah, I complain about traffic a lot for a guy who doesn't leave the house much. But as far as social media goes, like Greg, we work with each other more and more, basically to make sure that you get more stuff out there on social media. So I
Yep.
think a lot of people can really identify with you in that way. Just that like how do you start spitting things out? So maybe you can take it from there as far as
Yeah,
what's.
well, I mean, we're Yona Weiss, I might have butchered his last name, put together this CRE challenge that I dived into because I had known for a while I needed to kickstart engagement in general. A while ago, I did this self challenge where I did 30 for 30 days on LinkedIn. I don't know what the other 30 was, but I posted 30 times in 30 days on LinkedIn just to try and get into the habit. And actually, it showed some dividends, but then of course, it fell off because I'm a human and sometimes follow through is an issue. So in any case, part of the basis is, yeah, I struggle with what should my content be? What should I talk about? Do I really have anything to talk about? I don't just want to post stuff randomly for sake of putting out content. So I mean, it was probably much more of a quote unquote struggle that I created for myself than anything that was really necessary. Vastly overthinking this whole process is kind of where I'm starting to land. So just in the 3 days, yeah, I posted first about I'm getting out of my comfort zone and figuring out what should I do. Most of the feedback was, Greg, relax. You're overthinking this. It's not a big deal. Just talk about what you want to talk about, and you'll be surprised that the audience will find you um, organically.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not that that would necessarily mean tons of likes and shares and comments, because many of us are just observers. I think that's the vast amount of what's happening on social media. Is most people are just kind of lurking around in the corners and absorbing stuff,
Hmm.
myself included.
Yeah, that's why they call
Yeah.
them lurkers on some platforms. Just people
Oh,
who
yeah.
read everything, but they just are practically invisible.
Yeah. So, we have a podcast. We do meetups. It's not that I'm against talking to people. I prefer like things like this, where we're having some back and forth, and it'll last more than 2 minutes or something like that. So, just trying to find a way to convert that authentic, kind of organic into posting.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm landing on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so let me do the first yeah, but and say
Okay.
I think your hesitancy, like every time I've spoken to you in the last 6 months, I've been saying like, yeah, just put it out there, put it out there, put it out there. Don't try to be Walt Whitman because even if you try really hard, it's not going to be Walt Whitman. It's not going to be Ernest Hemingway. And honestly, I've read almost no Whitman or Hemingway. Just full disclosure, I'm just saying like famous writers who are known for being amazing. Like if you're not going to do that, if you're just talking about commercial real estate, in general, right? So you don't want to try too hard, but I want to talk about ROI, and I want to relate it back to one specific part of my own experience. So one of my favorite things when I was working as a CTO specifically and had less marketing responsibility is I'd watch the CMO and he'd have to come up with very subjective reasons for why something was going to work, and the same thing for why something didn't work that was supposed to. And I did not envy that one little bit. I loved the fact that as CTO, I make something, it didn't exist before, and now it does. And if you do some things, that's the cause, there will be a particular effect. In other words, the money will change hands, the customer will get the things that they paid for, everybody lives happily ever after. So, as a business person, I think one of the biggest struggles with social media is ROI. Like how do you get that return on investment, and what form does it come in? So, what are some thoughts that you've had recently about social media in terms of return on investment? Because dollars and
Well,
cents.
from a marketing point of view, social media is, if you're getting any profit from your spend, just increase your spend.
Hmm.
So if you're selling t-shirts or courses or whatever, if you're getting income from your spend, just increase your spend and your income will increase. It's pretty straightforward. Getting to that point is very difficult, but once you cross over that line, you've got the formula.
Hmm.
Um, it's a little bit different, I think, for our business because we're not selling something that is going to arrive in the mail in 2 days for free. So it's a little bit more elusive to figure out if you're getting your return. And I don't know if you'd ever really be able to quantify it. I think you would be able to quantify it just from looking backwards at the relationships you've built, or you're like, oh, well, we actually worked on a project together and we met in a networking event or on LinkedIn or wherever. So I think it just gonna, if you don't show up, I know what my results are going to be. If I do show up, I know at least there's a chance that I'll get results.
Hmm. Hmm. Right, and that's the best you can really hope for, right?
Yeah, and you can't just show up once or twice. I mean, that was the other thing. We had a podcast episode with Susie and Michael,
Hmm.
the couple investing from England,
Right.
and they were just like, they took COVID and turned it into their market advantage, and we're in every networking meeting they can get in, and just really hit the networking side of it. And you can't just show up once and then go away, then show up 3 months later. There is a consistency to this that has to be
Hmm.
made. I
Hmm.
don't know what the magic number is. How many times should I post a day, Dan?
Well, the only guideline I can really say for that I'm aware of is I've heard of penalties for posting more than once every 4 hours.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah, yeah, I got that from Dan Lukowitz actually, and I've tested it several times. One of the biggest things though is that you can't actually look at your short term number of views on posts with as much scrutiny as some people do, because if you're paying attention on LinkedIn as you scroll down, sometimes you'll get hit with something that a person posted a month ago, even though they posted something that day. So you might not see
Mm-hmm.
the thing the same day. So there's no guarantee that what you posted in the past is going to just languish with time. People might come out of the woodwork and check it out later. So that's a tough one to reconcile and make sure, like, that's what I. It's because of my science background. I want to make sure that the evidence actually points towards the conclusion rather than just corresponding with it and not actually being related. So, how often should you? I guess that gets into the real mantra of getting people's attention. It's like if you want to be on the tip of everybody's tongue, how are you going to do that once a week?
Right. Yeah, I know. Thank you to Yona that I will be posting once a day for at least the next 7 days, which is nice about some of these challenges. Or maybe that's something you could do with a group of friends or something, is be like, let's just hold ourselves accountable, and like, me, you, Dan, and Jeff over there and Susan are going to post every day for 45 days and just keep it amongst yourselves.
Hmm. Right,
So
right.
the accountability side of it is very helpful.
Yeah, and the community getting to really, understand what people are like in general, or at
I
least
don't
what.
even know if I'm doing it right. I mean, I'm there's some other little group thing that's supposed to happen and 18 comments and likes, and I don't think I hit that threshold yet. But whatever, I'm out there doing it.
Right. This is my second challenge with Yona, and I know the first one. It took me like 3 days to get my first one to the 18 and 18 because I think that
Okay.
I really resonate with lurkers, just like you, which brings me to Tone. You know, you mentioned Susie and Michael, and they're such positive people. You know, like when you watch them, it's like you see they're so bubbly and nice and all that kind of stuff. And you know, me personally, you know, I tend to be more like that. Hey, look at what that guy's doing. That's not okay. And you know, it's a bit of a bummer at times, but you know, it's not the same feel. And I think that Tone, like we all have to live and put out what matches with who we are, just so that you know we have that source that'll never run out. You know, it will you avoid that writer's block problem by just being yourself. So like that's what I find helps me the most. But what comes to your mind about you know that X factor and people who you end up following on social media and interacting with?
Oh, what's the X factor that they have?
Well, or just anybody in general. Just what comes to mind about that part of people's personality that makes people choose one person over another? Like,
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think you just resonate. Something resonates for some reason or other. I mean, sometimes you're on social media using it almost for search, and you might have a specific thing that you're looking to solve. So you'll follow people more purposefully for a particular reason, and once you've satisfied that need, you're probably still in your feed, but you might not be looking at them as much. So
mhm.
I know the people that I tend to occasionally like just search out in general, like what has this guy written lately? Are they tend to be underwriters and the real data orientated people or people in my market,
Hmm.
or you that we're working together and we're like trying to help each other out a little bit. So it kind of depends, I guess.
That's interesting because one of the things that comes to mind for me is how I end up doing lead generation on LinkedIn in general. So before I reveal my tips, you know, if you want to search out, you know, like somebody in a particular role or like what is there that you like? Because I know that you're not the kind of person who would have gone through, you know, 20 YouTube videos on how to do it. You were probably just like poking around saying, hey, what does this do? Hey, this seems to work. That sort of approach, right? Or where are you?
I've watched a couple of things that some people have put out for trying to accelerate it a little bit, using search properly, using a little bit more strategic when you're making connections, maybe just adding a message,
Mhm.
or looking at their profile and actually seeing it's like, oh, is there something that we can genuinely connect on here and pick up on it and mention in your hey Dan, I see you also invest in Tennessee. I'm over in blah blah blah. Then that can, I certainly appreciate it when I see it, so that's why I do it. I'm like, oh, this
Mhm.
person read my profile and asked me a specific question. That's better than the generic
Copy paste.
bot type thing, right?
Right.
Or the immediate ask.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
hope you're having a good day. Would you like to buy my course?
right. Right. Yeah. That's and so that's really what I'd say myself as well. So the first thing I'm on the lookout for is the person likely a bot. I'm also sniffing for anything that seems fake. I've mentioned in a few interviews recently that if I see that your profile picture is a hot girl, then that's strike one for me. That's the first red flag because I think most fake profiles have hot girls as their profile picture. So you know, like if I see a photo of a hot girl and then a description that looks like it works together and they're still and they're actually in a proper industry, then I'll go ahead and dig a little bit deeper and say like, okay, what kind of relevant experience do they have? You know, because they might just be a spokesperson. I've seen that on Facebook
Yeah,
before where one of the most active people I have, it's like they're Like I've seen their profile photos are all, it looks like an Instagram, but every post they have is spammy, like credit repair or loaned or whatever it is, and there's never any evidence that the person actually, like there's not even like, hey, it's me again, and I want to talk for a second about these credit repair things. That's the one where like for sure I'll say no. But the other thing I'll do is I'm very careful with geography, just because of me being from the internet. So one of the things I've been doing is searching out the hot geographical areas in commercial real estate, and then getting connected with a bunch of people specific to that area,
Hmm.
because the algorithm will definitely pay attention to that, and when I see stuff in my feed, it'll be their friends. So a lot of people in this industry want to avoid overly tenant friendly states. And so that's a way that you could leverage that is find an area that you want, and then just go through and connect with people in those related industries, and directly involved in what you have in mind, and connect with them so that you're more targeted. So there
That's a
you
good tip. I like that one. Yeah, I never figured out or dawned on me to maybe do connection requests from a demographic perspective almost.
go. Oh yeah.
Certainly geographic. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, yeah, and the demographics are definitely what color that choice. I'm looking for regions with high population growth, and everybody complaining about low inventory as far as
Mhm.
apartments. I'll give an example, which isn't a good one, which is Austin. Okay, so I'm not focused on Austin, but I've heard that there are more apartment units being built right now in
Right.
Austin than there even are in Austin. So like that kind of situation, like that's a golden opportunity as far as I'm concerned, because that means they're going to need more help in their deals. And I guess part of it is finding, like when somebody's desperate and like, I need an extra 300K in this raise or something like that. I think that's when you're able to finally do something about the fact that most buildings aren't really penciling in these days anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, there's about a yeah, buts there. Depends what your matrix is, but I feel your pain for sure. I know a lot of the things that we're underwriting aren't penciling for our purposes. So
excellent.
yeah, yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I just keep on hearing people complaining about it, but I guess
No, I
it's
said they aren't
oh,
penciling, not that
oh,
they
they aren't.
are. We got a
Oh,
couple that are, but most of them don't. Yeah, for
right,
sure.
right. So there you go. All right, so that's a little bit of yeah, but for social media, we were talking about calendars a little bit earlier. Do you want to talk about that real briefly before we
Yeah,
go?
that's fine. I mean, because I'm always trying to figure out how to make the most of my time. You mentioned that you're just starting to use Google Calendar,
Well,
and I,
more like for the entire day and
yeah,
everything that I want to do. Yes.
yeah, and I do the same as well. I mean, I'm pretty low tech on how I organize my day. I use Google Calendar and like the memo, whatever the free memo thing on my G7 is, just make a list.
Google
Um,
Keep is really good for that because it's also cloud based. You can see it. It's actually in your Gmail on the sidebar. There's a little
oh yeah, right.
list.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and you can sync with other people on your team so that they can be checked off, or all that kind of stuff. So
But yeah, for me, it's taken some time that it's to the point if it's not on my calendar, it's probably not going to happen. We talked about the inverse is true. A reoccurring Zoom meeting fell off of my calendar and I almost missed it
mhm,
because the frequency ran out in Zoom and I didn't
mhm,
have a hard reminder in there to set myself. So it goes
mhm.
both ways. Um, and we were kind of joking about
About date
putting,
night.
yeah, putting in your calendar date night with your partner or go for a hike or something. And was more on the side of I felt that discounted those priorities, that somehow because I had to schedule it lessened the value of it somehow. I have come around to the opposite, that it's important. That's why it's on the calendar, and you're guarding your time uh, to be used for whatever you think is most valuable, whether it be work related or personal related. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It also if you don't schedule it on your calendar, I think you're just asking for a situation where something comes up and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, honey, I gotta cancel. But if it's in there and you're also sharing your calendar link, then then
Right.
other people have no ability to take up some of that time that's already pre-scheduled. But
Yeah. And be I'm fairly regimented about if it's like there's something on my calendar, somebody asks me that does this time work to you? It's a no. I'm like, no, I got something else scheduled.
mhm,
I don't answer phone calls when I'm in a block of time that I'm supposed to be underwriting a property.
mhm,
It's just like this is the task I'm working on, because I think distractions will just kill your day.
mhm.
They certainly can kill mine, at least.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just being very disciplined about it. The other thing I'll add is something that we've done. I know you do podcasts. Was if your podcast is an hour, I'm putting time on the beginning and the end for prep, to properly prepare, and then at the end to properly decompress and like maybe write some copy notes while the episode is still fresh in my head, so
Mhm.
that 3 weeks later or a month later when Kim uploads it, I'm like, what the hell did we talk about? I
Yeah.
mean, the time to do that is the 10 minutes after the call happened.
Mhm.
So if you're a very call centric person, give yourself some time on each end, because I don't think it's very useful to go from a call at 1 to 2 to 2 to 3, because there's no time to write some notes down, or just think about it, or follow up with a quick email.
Mhm.
Uh, that maybe it's not as productive as you think.
Hmm. 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 I want to go back to what you were saying about date night and keeping the meaningfulness for a second, because one of the things I always wanted to avoid, and I used to criticize executives and whatnot, and having their executive assistant in particular, where it's like you'd see these guys that are basically being treated like toddlers, where they've got a keeper saying it's like, oh no, right now is your whatever time instead of the something else time, and so like you don't even know your own schedule, you're depending on something else to tell you what you should be doing all the time. That's what I wanted to do, or what I wanted to mention, because like I never wanted that feeling of not being prepared, not knowing what exactly I'm in for, or having that kind of, oh, it's like space cadet kind of feel. Does that sound like something that you had?
Um, like going back to an example that I could put from is like the podcast. Kim handles all the logistics of it and scheduling guests, and more, um, she's taken more control of that, and it's more of like Darren and I just showing up to, because we know how to do the podcast, and I still do my own work to map out questions and kind of roadmap how it's going to go, but less and less. Um, I'm involved in actually getting to the point where we're going online and hitting record.
Mm-hmm,
So I could see some of the value to, like, if you're like in control of marketing and scheduling the pod, just own it, and then like, Dan, you have a podcast at 3, hop on, and you know how to do the podcast.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So you're not hopping into something that is outside of your ability, but you freed up. Uh, you've given somebody full agency to do that particular job of logistics and scheduling and outreach and all that well. and all you have to do is show up. So if there is a situation where you can just show up and execute because somebody else has executed on the lead up to it, no, I don't see there's anything wrong with that.
Do you have an idea, like an eyeball rough guess of how many episodes you have on the podcast yet?
I think it's like 63.
63, yeah. So it's definitely substantial. Do you think you'll ever get to the point where you can do it without a net? I guess you could say, like, no safety net, where it's just like, okay, there's no prep. I don't know this person. Let's hop on. Let's talk to them, and see how it is. Like, is that something that is
Uh, I don't think I'd enjoy it. I think I would stress about it
Mhm.
going in cold.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Um, like if I'm joining yours,
yeah. Well,
you know, if you're like, hey, you're inviting me in and like you're coming in cold, I'd be like, that's fine because that's my responsibility. But for my own podcast, I feel like I got to be there's got
yeah.
to be some prep involved for me to feel comfortable, trying to interview somebody.
Yeah, that's funny because for my one series, Figure It Out, I always had like every single question, boom, 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 and most of the guests didn't know that I also usually had some sort of social agenda that I would leave implied. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with the line of questioning and the conclusion that we came to. But now I'm doing a series that I'm hoping we'll collab on something like that anyway, which is where I don't even hide the fact that the person I'm talking to is essentially a stranger, and we do not have the questions ironed out. And the new thing that I'm doing is I'm quickly trying to establish, who are they, but more importantly, from a real estate investment perspective, I want to know what are their motivations and what role will they have in a co-GP deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing, I think, is an interesting approach to make sure that you're ready on a moment's notice. But
Yeah, I mean, but since that's the premise, that's cool. Yeah.
cool.
But in keeping to my calendar thing, this is a great example. I have an asset management call at 3:30. We already talked about it, so so I'm not like
Exactly.
telling you something you don't already know.
Right. And that's it. So if you
But I
enjoyed
got a jet. No, good man. This was on my calendar too. We did it. On to the next thing, right?
exactly, we're only over by 1 minute, but make sure
Yeah,
you
that's
like and
fine.
subscribe because that matters. It means that YouTube ends up
It,
paying for this stuff instead of us. So
yeah, right. Exactly.
there you go.
So, all right, man. We'll see you later. Good talking to you.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Okay.